All right, so today I am joined by none other than Crypto who is a community lead at PIVX, if I recall correctly.
Governance guru, I go for.
Governance guru, right on, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Sai, can we get a little bit of history about yourself, how you got involved in cryptocurrency? I know you're in the UK. How's that been like for you and your experience, I guess, as a guy living in the UK with crypto?
Okay, so I come into crypto from more of I guess, libertarian type of background. I'm not so sure about these political ideologies, but kind of like the ideals that we can do better than the current system that's in place. I got into crypto in around 2012. Background wise, I've studied computer sciences with internet applications. So went into work in the general web development, system development type thing, a little bit of programming here and there, but nothing anywhere near good enough to be a cryptocurrency developer. So yeah, got into crypto in 2012, late 2012, kind of realized that money as it was a bit of a bit of a scam. So I picked up a book which was, I think it was called Economics 101, and then I realized I learned about like monetary policy. Um, I realized what certain parts of the world use their monetary policy for to try and harm other parts of the world, and all that kind of stuff just kind of rubbed me up wrong. Around the same time, I watched a documentary called Zeitgeist, which although parts of it were a bit far fetched, it kind of I guess it introduced me to critical thought. So yeah, so from there I got into Bitcoin. Obviously, with my tech background, it was quite easy for me to understand at the time. Um, I didn't initially get into Bitcoin to get rich. That wasn't the plan. It was more a case of, uh, I guess, working on something that you feel will make a difference, as opposed to just collecting coins. So yeah, so that's how I got into it. My progress through it. Initially, I was very interested in Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin itself is kind of, I guess, it's kind of vanilla. So there's not really that much to it for me. At the time, there was other projects like NXT, which was very interesting to me and still is. Dash, which is very interesting because of the master nodes and the governance that surrounds it. Moved from Bitcoin to I really started focusing on Dash because I really thought that was where the future was at. Dash made a pivot. They didn't use the governance protocol that they themselves had built to make that pivot. That kind of told me that the governance protocol itself wasn't really worth that much. So I kind of pivoted away from Dash. And that's when I found PIVX, which at the time was called Darknet. And that's when I found privacy. That's when I didn't really understand how important privacy was. Kind of learned that during that time, thanks to a developer called Spock, who really taught me a lot about cryptocurrency. So yeah, that's how I got to where I am today.
Yeah, man, that's pretty amazing. And I know it kind of occurred to me as well before. I think maybe a few days ago that there's a level of, I guess, financial knowledge that you need to have, like, technical stuff aside. I think in order to really appreciate things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, you kind of need to have that sort of economics 101 thing. I just super quickly want to ask, because I'm from Canada, and in Canada we also, I mean, to my understanding, in the States, there's like zero like financial literacy being taught in school. And the same thing in my upbringing, like I felt that I was taught nothing. I have a university degree and I knew literally nothing about economics or finance until I started, dabbling in crypto and really like stuck my head in it, about a year ago. How's your experience been with that, like in the UK?
Well, I was 30 years old when I picked up that book. I spent the first 12 years of my adult life chasing around after money that literally uh, gets printed out of thin air. When I picked up the book, I read the book. I remember going back, sitting in my room and feeling like a complete idiot. So in the UK, we don't have financial literacy taught in state schools. I'm not sure about private schools, but in state schools, no, we don't have financial literacy taught. You can do it if you go to university and do it, or if you choose it at college. But as a rule, as it should be, no, it's not. It's not taught for us here. No, not at all.
That's pretty crazy. So I wanted to also ask. So you consider yourself a governance guru, and I'm actually really curious. I kind of wanted to tap into that because, of course, we have all these DAOs and decentralized autonomous organizations coming out, and all these different modes of governance. I know that during the privacy talk last week, you had mentioned that PIVX is currently developing some sort of a DAO framework or some sort of community governance. Can you kind of give us a sneak peek into that? Because I'm assuming that you're one of the main dudes behind developing that. Eh?
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, I guess what it is, it's not so much developing. It's more iterating. And at the moment, to be absolutely honest, we're not iterating much because, like we spoke about in the privacy talk, privacy does come first. The thing with cryptocurrency, which a lot of people who are not actually developers don't really realize, is that you can't just bolt features on. So what you have to do really is you have to set the foundation, you have to set the things that are most important, and then the other features kind of get added on. For us, or for PIVX as a project in particular, the main feature is the privacy. So once the privacy is done and underlined, then we get the governance. And the governance also has to fit in with the privacy. So when you vote, you have to have a scenario where you can vote privately. So people don't know your vote. That gives you the freedom to vote things that are possibly not popular as far as the community is concerned. And then people won't know that you voted it, and then you can vote more freely. Right? The same reason why when you go into a voting booth, it's there's a curtain and people can't see what you're voting. But before I jump too far ahead, let me just explain how the governance within PIVX works. Right, we got it from Dash, so we have to first of all say give credit to Dash. They're the ones that imagined the model and built it first. So how it works is you have these special nodes, and they're called master nodes. What a master node is, it's something that helps the network stay secure. To own a master node, and each master node is owned by a different person or a different entity. You could have a group of you could own a master node. It's not advised, but it's possible. To own a master node, you need to have a certain amount of the currency put down as collateral. So in Dash, you have to have 1,000 Dash put down as collateral. Within PIVX, you have to have 10,000 PIVX. Obviously, one PIVX is a lot cheaper than one Dash, so it kind of evens itself out. I think at the moment, a Dash master node is worth, I don't know, $70,000. A PIVX master node is about $4,000. So once you've got this master node, it gave you in the original Dash model, it gave you three benefits. There's three things that you can do with these master nodes. Number one, you can help all the people on the network to mix their funds, and that was called coin join or coin mixing. It's the same type of privacy as what Mimblewimble uses, where what you do is called privacy by obfuscation. You just mix all the transactions together, and then people won't know what came in from what went out. It's okay, right? The next thing it can do is it can provide instant transactions. So what it does is instead of putting blocks together the way Bitcoin would, for example, it would have a subset of the master nodes all do that transaction alone, and they would all do it between, like, I think it's six of them. They'll do it instantly because it's only six nodes communicating, so it would happen boom, or near enough instantly, right? The third thing it allows you to do is it allows you to vote. Now you can vote on the upcoming what is known as a super block. Each super block, a certain amount of Dash is printed, or a certain amount of PIVX is printed out of thin air. 10% of that new PIVX that's printed, or 10% of that new Dash that is printed, goes towards what we know as a budget. Now, the budget allows for development to be ongoing. So with a lot of other projects, I listened to the talk with Palki that you guys done a few days ago, and they were talking about their fund. Now, the problem you have with funds is that they run out. First problem you have is funds that they run out. Second problem you have is that the people that donate the money, they want their money to go towards certain things. And then you have the same sort of corruption that you get within the regular government. the same sort of lobbying and this, and then the whales kind of get their own way because they're putting forward their money and they're saying to the developers, well, we're paying you, so therefore do X, right? So with this type of masternode governance model, that is mitigated. It's not cut out, of course, because it's still a plutocracy. So it's not cut out, but it's mitigated. So the people with masternodes, they can then vote. The budget cycle opens every month. Every month you can vote. Every month a certain amount of PIV is created. Now, anybody, any person, whether you're in PIVX or not, or you're in Monero, or you're in anything, you can come to the PIVX budget system and put forward a proposal. CryptoMood could come forward to our budget system and say, okay, we want to propose that you guys sponsor us 500 PIV, which is about, I don't know, $200 every month for us to put an advert in. That goes out to everybody who's got the PIVX wallet, and everybody can look at that and decide if they've got a masternode, can decide if they want to vote yes, no, or abstain. Okay, fine. Once that's finished, what you end up with then is CryptoMood would get paid, and the development carries on like that, and that kind of allows us to develop in a much more community centric way than other projects who don't have that form of governance model. So that's, in a nutshell, that's how our DAO works. It's not perfect. So just a quick update, I guess, is that we've had a vote. We had a vote because it can also take consensus. It doesn't have to be money. You can just ask a question. Do you guys think it's a good idea if we do X? So we asked the question, do you think it's a good idea if we move the governance model away from one masternode, one vote to one coin, one vote? And it was an overwhelming yes. I think there was no votes. Everybody said yes. That then allows us to change the governance system and iterate it. And that's kind of where my mind is now as far as governance is concerned. It's something that it doesn't so much get developed, finished, and put to one side. I think it's something that you have to constantly iterate, both through the life cycle of the DAO itself and the life cycle of humanity's interaction with these sorts of DAOs. So so in a nutshell, that's it, in quite a big nutshell.
Yeah, it's quite a big nutshell, but man, like that's incredible, and it actually, well, I guess first off, I'll thank you for taking the time to listen to the interview, or I guess the podcast episode with Pauki. One thing that just comes to mind as you were saying all of this is I kind of never realized it, that in all the DAOs that we see now, or at least in most of them, I mean, I think it's all of them. You have a situation where the vote is public and people can see, like, of course, you see the wallet address and you don't know necessarily who's behind the wallet address. And I guess we're fortunate enough, or unfortunate enough, depends on who you ask, in cryptocurrency that the votes are really, I guess, very pragmatic and practical. Like, they're not really like ideological or anything. Like, let me see this way: it's not like they're voting, are we going to revoke the right to abortion or something like that in like a sushi swap DAO,
Yeah.
So and I don't know, like I find it interesting because I think for now, when you're kind of voting on these very, I guess you can say, like, tangible, almost like material changes, I guess the privacy doesn't really matter. But I feel like if we were to enter a scenario where you're trying to have a governance structure, you would need it to be private. Like, you would need something like PIVX to provide the proverbial curtain around your voting booth. Because what'll happen is, even if your personal information isn't put out there, eventually people will say, oh, I can see, this account, this particular wallet always votes a certain way. I hate that. I don't like them. I want to try and I want to try and influence that person who's voting. Whereas if you have it completely anonymous and private, then you can be in a position where, there's no way for any entity or group to kind of go and try and dissuade certain voters from voting, because they will maybe know that this particular wallet has a tendency to vote in this certain way. But I guess this is something that's like way far in the future. I want to get your thoughts on that.
I think it's not quite as far in the future as you'd think. And I think we touched on it, and luckily it was right at the end of the conversation last time when it was me and the Monero guy and Pauki. We touched on it right at the end, where we spoke about privacy, and we spoke about what levels of privacy. The question, I think, was where in privacy should we decide to cut it off and say, yeah, you can have privacy, and that in itself is quite it can become quite an emotive question. Now, a person may not feel comfortable even saying, I don't want to have privacy regardless. I don't want extremist privacy. I want privacy, but somebody may, because when it was said during the podcast, it was quite clear that those guys were quite firm in their stance. And not to say they were aggressive, but the conversations definitely could become, let's say, less than civil, and they do. So at that point, if somebody wanted to put forward a proposal like that, they may not want to tie that proposal to their name. May want to decide to just put that proposal forward based on the merits of that proposal alone. So that people can't turn around and say to them, okay, well, it's fine for you to say you want extremist privacy because for example, you're a straight white male in North America. And for you, you can rely on police work because the police institute is, let's say the police is institutionally racist and that doesn't affect you. So therefore, you can vote for that. Now, it kind of then moves a personal element to an argument which doesn't really need it. So if you can put forward that proposal without having to put forward your identity, suddenly questions are just questions. And that, I believe, is a much more efficient way to ask the questions. Obviously, it's optional. So if you want to tell people who you are, and in some situations, you kind of you need it. For example, a developer comes along and says, "I want to add SegWit. I want to add SegWit to PIVX. It's utterly pointless. We don't need it. But someone comes along and says they want to do that. You can then look at their history, the development that they've done before, to look and make up your mind whether or not that person can actually complete that task. So you definitely need privacy, but on a situation like with putting forward votes and putting forward proposals in particular, I would say it's something that is optional. And in some cases, I'd say it's advantageous to have the option to keep your proposals private, to keep the identity of the proposer private.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if this is something maybe you realize as well as you were saying it, but it just kind of hit me. How can you have privacy while also keeping track of reputation? Like that's something that's going to be really interesting, and I don't know if that's something that's maybe crossed your mind, but I think that in the case of PIVX, that might be something you'll have to, I guess, eventually develop. Is how can we make it in a way that you can anonymously propose something, you can see the history, but then without any sort of like wallet address or anything that would potentially identify the person. And not only that, but you would have to do it in a way, I don't know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, that once the proposal is passed, or once it's been either passed or struck down, then that like even that history reputation becomes obscured for that time. And you know what I mean, like it's just so
Right. So
bizarre.
so this is the thing, and this is the thing with PIVX. And this is another thing that I had a bit of an issue with when we spoke last time, right? We've already been through that. So PIVX has already been through that. So these other two guys, they've never heard of PIVX, despite PIVX being the most forked cryptocurrency that there is behind Bitcoin. So the most forked cryptocurrency. So people use PIVX the most when they're creating altcoins more than anything else. Fact, right? Other than, let's say, ERC20s, which are technically not forked. So so we've already been through this. Our project is quite old, and we've moved quite a lot. Like Monero is older, but they haven't moved as much as we have. Our initial founders, a guy called Seven Hacks, he stayed anonymous. He stayed anonymous right until PIVX was number 9 in CoinMarketCap. So when we had our meteoric rise just before the ICO boom, he stayed anonymous. Our lead developer, Fuzzballs, is still anonymous. Like I've met the guy, but I couldn't tell you his name. And if somebody can find out, good luck to them. Good luck trying to find out because he doesn't want to be known. And for us, the question was always posed, especially when we was on our rise, pre-ICO boom. The question was always posed, how can we trust this project when we can't go to the person's house if it goes wrong and stand outside with a placard saying, give us our money back? How can we trust these people? And the answer is quite simple. The code is there for you to see. The code is there for you to see. The blockchain is there for you to explore. And our blockchain itself is auditable. So for us, it was always a case of if you want to be private as an individual, you can always have these kind of, I guess, pseudo identities. Fuzzballs could be four or five different guys. To me, it doesn't matter. What he or she does as a certain pseudo identity is good enough. And as long as the code is open source, I don't need to trust them. And that's the whole point behind cryptocurrency. And that's kind of where I'd say the space has kind of lost its way since the 2017 boom. There's all this new energy, which I'm appreciative of, but a lot of that new energy has brought a lot of the legacy ideals into the space. So reputation is really a thing now, and it's tied to your LinkedIn profile as opposed to tied to your GitHub profile. And for me, I don't think that's ideal because again, you then have the same social kind of issues where certain people will get pushed out or not be welcomed in, and it's a hard thing to avoid, but it definitely is there. So yeah, for me, I think that we do benefit from keeping people's identities private again.
Yeah, man, like that was pretty crazy. I mean, and I guess it's a perfect segue to kind of the last thing I wanted to touch on because I don't want to take up too much of your time, and that's I guess your views on the cryptocurrency space as it is now and kind of going forward. You know what you think is going to happen with PIVX. I know that's something that was briefly discussed in terms of privacy coins in general, but I guess any future plans for PIVX and your future I guess outlook on or your outlook on the future of the cryptocurrency space in general.
At the moment, I am absolutely loving crypto. I think it's better now than it has ever been. I think that the whole DeFi thing has brought a new wave of energy and and creativity, and it's not always so suit and tie, stuffy, money, money, money. There's quite a lot of it is quite playful, quite fun. There are a load of new things being built. So I'm really bullish on the space at the moment. Privacy wise, I touched on this again. Um, I'd say privacy in the last 6 months has taken a huge leap. We're at a stage now where we can have real, meaningful privacy, not privacy by obfuscation, but real zero knowledge, strong privacy, like as strong as privacy can be mathematically, as strong as it ever will get. And we can have it on mobile phones. And I think that advance has made the technology really useful. And I think that will change the entire space of cryptocurrency. People are looking and building projects like BlockDX, where you've got decentralized exchange using atomic swaps, and those projects are picking up traction. They recently released or released in beta a light wallet version, so you don't have to download the entire blockchain, which made BlockDX a little bit unusable for a lot of people. They've moved to light wallet, so now you can just switch on, log in, and trade. I probably can't stress enough how much opportunity there is in the space for people who have just arrived and for people who have been there for a while. So, yeah, I think things are really looking up. I just the one downside I think is that we still have some of this. We still have too much of this tribalism and too much of this. This is my coin, and I want this one to win so I can make loads of money and buy a castle. There's still a little bit too much of that, and I think that if there was anything I would change in the space, that would be it. I would change that idea. When we got off the call last time, the guys said to each other, one of them said, may the best currency win," and I like what are the win conditions? Are the win conditions that everybody uses one currency and then you can buy a castle, or are the win conditions that people have the choice to choose whatever fits within their personal moral viewpoint or standards? So so that's one thing I would change. But on the whole, yeah, I've not been as bullish about crypto since I guess early 2013. So yeah, it's a really good space.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And in terms of, I guess, in terms of PIVX, is there anything that's coming up that we can potentially look forward to? Anything you can
Yes,
disclose or not disclose?
yes, we disclose everything. There are never any secrets within PIVX, which is both a gift and a curse. We have got Sapling coming up, which is a zero knowledge protocol developed by the guys at Zcash. Obviously, we're proof of stake; they are proof of work, which means that For us, we don't have miners as such. So the people that secure the chain are also holders in the chain, which is very important for a number of reasons, both like economically and philosophically. Hence the reason why Ethereum are dying to move over to proof of stake, and everyone else will. Bitcoin probably will one day, hopefully, fingers crossed. So we're adding sapling. Once we've added sapling, we're going to be at a stage where we can really argue for our position, our rightful position as one of the best privacy coins as it stands technically overall in terms of features, in terms of security. What else are we doing? Sapling is the main thing. After Sapling, I spoke with Furzy, one of the main developers, and he was saying he wanted to build on a protocol called Fly Client, which I believe is made by someone who was also connected with Zcash. It's a new way to do light wallets. It should make light wallets a little bit less resource intensive on the back end. So most people who don't use light wallets, or most people who use light wallets like Coinomi, for example, they don't realize how hard it is to host all of these different coins for the actual Coinomi company. Fly Client will make that a lot easier, and it will mean that people can kind of not put so much reliance upon the companies to allow those things. So we're going to be building that after we've done Sapling. Once Sapling is done, I'm going to start getting on the developers' nerves to try and push for the next level of governance, the next iteration in governance. I've spoken to Furzy about it, and I like something which is called liquid governance. I guess people could Google it. If you Google liquid governance or liquid democracy, um, there's some good talks on it on YouTube. But basically, what it is it's kind of like the same representative democracy that we use in most of the developed world, where you put your vote to someone else and let them make the decision for you. But it's called liquid because you can remove your vote at any time. So unlike the traditional political system where you vote for a person, they can tell you something for 6 months, you vote them in, they've got four years to prove that they're the biggest liars that God ever created, and then just do the opposite of whatever you voted them in to do. With a liquid system, you vote them in, they get into office, they decide that they're going to do something else, you vote them out, they're out by the morning. That's the end of it. Uh, it makes the work they do a lot more difficult because obviously they don't have the certainty that they're going to be there in a year's time. But on the flip side, it means that they have to act in the best interests of the network or the people who are controlling the network. Otherwise, they immediately get the boot. So we're going to be looking into things like that. That's my tip. That's the one I would most like to go with. A lot of the time when I want to go with something, the developers tell me I'm stupid and we should do something else. But that's the one I want to go with. And Furzy's also quite keen on that. So I guess, yeah, those are the main things. Sapling, number one. Number two, I guess, would be Fly Client. Number three would be the next iteration of governance.
Damn, man, that sounds super exciting. I actually really hope you're able to get something like that up and running because, at least, again, to my knowledge, I don't think that there are any are there any other protocols that are doing that currently, or any other cryptocurrencies that are? I don't think there are. I mean,
As far as I know, no, there's not. But there may be. I guess with this type of thing, there's two things to say on this, right? So we PIVX is the first for a lot of things, right? So we're the first private staking currency. And what happens is you have some things where you're the first, but being the first is not always the most important thing. Sometimes it's to be the first of a significant size where your market cap is big enough for smart people to invest time into smashing it. So even if we're not the first, because some other tiny currency has done it, the fact that we are the biggest, the first of our size, that's worth exploiting. I say we would definitely be the first of a size worth exploiting to build a DAO like that. There are probably some ERC20 that use it because it's not a new idea. Liquid governance has been around for a while. I think Google use it in their office to decide what meals the people want. They've done a trial, something like that. So we may not be the first, but I would definitely say we're the first of a significant size because obviously there's thousands of cryptos. I wouldn't want to say that I know the intimate details of each and every single one.
so that's super fair, man. Well, I guess on that note, I'll kind of finish it off. Thank you so much for taking the time today to speak. And are there any kind of closing thoughts you have, or you're gonna go off and have a nice weekend?
Closing thoughts. Bitcoin price prediction. You promised me I'd get to make one,
Yes,
so
of course, of course.
so I'm gonna go. What kind of timescale are we looking at? The price in a year or
Let's say 2 years, like 1 or 2 years.
yeah, 2 years? Okay, 2 years from now, I'm gonna say Bitcoin will be at 60,000 $60,000 each one. I think the price of
Damn.
Bit. I think the price of Bitcoin is going to go really high because I don't think coronavirus is going to go away, and I think coronavirus, as it's caused the next stock bubble, I think that this money printing is going to cause the next crypto bubble as well. So we're just waiting for that 6 trillion to trickle down into crypto, and I reckon that I reckon that the price will, yeah, I reckon we'll get 5 or 6x from here over the next 2 years. Yeah, definitely. I think
I
that's where
I
we.
I agree. I agree personally, actually. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I guess I'm assuming you hold Bitcoin.
Only a little. Interestingly, when this is a story I tell quite often. When Bitcoin had its first run, well, the first one that I saw in 2012, I was like, oh my gosh, if I buy, I think the number was 41. If I buy 41 Bitcoins, I'll be a millionaire. When Bitcoin gets the market cap the same size as Apple, blah blah. Obviously, we had the boom of 2017, and I got rich, but I guess I realized at that point that nothing changed. So I kept eating at the same places. I had the same circle of friends. I drove the same car. I lived in the same house. My wife was the same. Look, my wife is probably worthy of being a millionaire, and my child is amazing too. But nothing really changed. So I guess after that point, I kind of stopped buying into things because I knew that on the other side they would make me rich. Because I guess rich is one of those things that it's nice until you're there, and then when you're there, you're just there. Do you know what I mean? So that's obviously it's not 2017 anymore, so I'm not that rich, but uh, I do hold Bitcoin, but not because I want it to, because I think it's going to go up in value. I hold Bitcoin because I genuinely like using it. I genuinely like sticking two fingers up to those guys who are um, printing money out of thin air. And plus, because of my involvement with crypto at such an early age and in a privacy currency, I personally have issues with bank accounts and whatnot, things like that. So there's two reasons why I hold Bitcoin. I think honestly, I think Ethereum will massively outperform Bitcoin over the next 2 years. So I would go out on a limb and say that we may see the flipping in within the next 2 years. We may see Ethereum overtake Bitcoin in the next 2 years. I think that's very, very possible, especially after proof of stake. Once they get to Ethereum 2.0, once they move to proof of stake, I think they'll overtake Bitcoin.
Damn. Okay, I definitely want to leave on that note then, just to leave that in people's
Yeah.
minds to think about. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
thanks again so much, Sai. Yeah, man, we'll be in touch, and yeah, best of luck to you. Hope you're staying safe out there in the UK, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, good health to all your family and friends and everyone, because I know we're living through crazy times. It's easy to forget when you're in crypto and everything's online and you're just sitting here hanging out, and then as soon as you go outside, you're like, oh shit, like right, we're in this situation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me on both. It's a great platform you guys are putting together. So yeah, best of luck. I hope it gets the attention that it deserves, because you really are putting up some good content. So thank you. And yeah, obviously stay safe. Try and as we say in the UK, be vigilant. Uh, stay alert. That's what we say here. Literally, what we say.
Stay alert.
Honestly, that's what we say here. We say stay alert. So if you see the corona come in, make sure you're alert and dodge him or her. And yeah, stay safe and best of luck.
Thanks, Sai. Take care, brother.
Cheers, mate. Bye bye.
Cheers.